Welcome back to another episode of Prepper Talk Radio, radio for the ready-minded, where we focus on God, family, and country. Today, we're really excited to bring you some information about what's going on in the news. You guys are probably well aware. So many of our listeners, thankfully, are keeping their eyes open, their head on a swivel. They're watching what's going on in the news. And so we're going to talk about some of those events today as well. So if you want to jump in or add any comments to what we're saying, make sure you do so if you're watching on YouTube. Put some comments below. Let's strike up some conversations, but also join our group on Facebook and start some conversations there about what's going on. And let's help other people get aware and become awake to what's really going on in the world. After our podcast today, if there's some things that you didn't know about, you're going to know as much as we know. And then if you know about some things we didn't cover that are important for us to know, make sure you let us know and shoot us an email or definitely message us on Facebook so we can get that information out as well. This episode is brought to you by our desire to help you switch to a parallel economy. Right now, there's so many woke companies that are coming out with some of the craziest ideas about what they think their customers want, their consumers want. And it's important for us to remember to vote with our dollars. We need to vote with our dollars. There's right now we're seeing in the news a boycott on several different companies, Target, Kohl's. We're also seeing a boycott on some of these other ones. And so how long is that going to last though? Like how long until we have an alternative, unless we have an alternative, I should say, those boycotts can only last for so long.
Unless you use the alternatives that are available, because there are.
Exactly. And so we have, we actually are working on alternatives. We have one already lined up, ready to go. It's actually pretty awesome. We'll have a link in the description below, but if you go to patriotswitch.com/prepper talk and fill out some information there, there'll be a great little, it's a website, it's a landing page for you to look at some of the things that we're talking about. But you know, the illusion of choice is that we have a ton of different options when we walk into a store, but the reality is all of these brands are owned by a handful of bigger brands, and that handful of bigger brands is owned by 10% or so, give or take a percent, is owned by BlackRock and Vanguard. So who really runs the show here, and who's really who are we really putting our money? Where are we giving our money? Are we giving it to China, or do we want to give it to American-made, American manufactured, and American products? If you want to be in the parallel economy, if you want to give your money and vote with your money and give it back to American products, services, manufacturing, go to patriotswitch.com/prepper talk and fill out your information, and we'll give you a call. We'll go through the details of it, and if it's a good fit, we'll move forward. If not, at least you'll know what we're doing, and you can help spread the word. Today's episode, again, as I shared earlier, it's going to be about what's going on in the news. Shane has got a list. We kind of went through the ideas. We all have a list, but Shane was rattling off.
Way to drop out of the conversation. Scott's over here useless. Well, Shane knows everything, and I, Paris, am just going to ask questions.
Well, unfortunately, I'd like to listen as I work, right, to the current events of the day, and it's very depressing, and I don't want to be depressing to any of you guys, but knowledge is power, and that's the stance that I come from. I don't like to stick my head in the sand and ignore what's going on, and it's important to know what's going on in order to know how to prepare adequately for it, right? So that's why we do this, right? It's not to scare, it's to educate.
Educate, inform, but also okay, yeah, there's a lot of crap going on in the world. There's a lot of crap going on at home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the whole point is, if you're aware, you can plan, and you can plan for what's happening and for what's coming. And then none of this is to fearmonger you, right? All of this is to help you prepare. And it's you look at the Navy SEALs, you look at any elite special forces, and what do they do before they go in to do something? They get all the recon they can, so they can make a good plan to go forward. And if they miss on the recon, that puts them in danger. That's why their recon is so dang good.
Mm-hmm.
And so use this week's podcast specifically, as kind of a recon moment, and then go back and listen to the old podcasts, everything prior to this, to learn all the different things you can be doing to be better prepared now and in the future.
Right. And we're kind of going to just skim over particular events and let you guys do your own research, your own investigation, because I don't think it's healthy to just take what you hear for face value, right? You've got to formulate your own opinion and get your own perspectives and look at opposing perspectives and all that to to do that for yourself. And we just don't have time to do that here. And it's and there's a lot I want to just touch on briefly, just so that you know what's going on out there. You know, just to give it a quick example, back in, I think, 2013, the first word, one of the words that really set off my preparedness, and this is when I got really intense, and about the time I met Scott, the word Fukushima was spoken to me. And I'm like, Fukushima, what's that? I had no idea about Fukushima, what Fukushima is. And that should be a hot button. And anyone listening in the preparedness world should know what that means and all about Fukushima. There was the earthquake. There was a tsunami into Japan. The Fukushima is a nuclear power plant. It pretty much got destroyed. That's been contaminating our oceans ever since, 2010, 11, I can't remember what year it was. And so that's something that's a really hot topic that we should still be following even today. And you never hear it spoken of. So that's just a quick thing. So, okay, if you don't know about Fukushima, Google it, get on your search engines and learn about Fukushima, and get on the YouTube and get on the other alternative media channels and type in Fukushima and learn what the heck is going on, because it just may rock your world, as it did mine at the time. So there's the intro.
Well, that's funny, is like there's so many people listening right now that they're seeing things happen, and those are their jumping off point to get into preparedness.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and what's funny is all three of us grew up in cultural families where preparedness is important. Your supply of food at home is important. But until you actually have a purpose behind why you're doing something, it's hard to really get into it. Right. And so you're watching the news today and you're like, wait, what's going on with Biden? Wait, what's going on with North Korea and South Korea? What's going on in Taiwan? Right? There's a comedian that does this bit, and he talks about, it's like, to say you don't believe in conspiracy theories, like you don't believe in any conspiracy theories, like you don't believe you believe your government's batting 1,000, like really, like they didn't do anything wrong. Well, the reality is there are people all over the world that are self-serving, and of course, if you're self-serving and you're focused on you having power and other people not having power, you're going to be corrupt, and you're going to be easily corrupted. And absolute power corrupts absolutely. And so, of course, there's crap going on all over the world. And of course, you're seeing more and more of it happen right in front of you. Why? Because these are the times prophesied in the scriptures. And this is the time also of the Great Awakening, which is fantastic. Don't confuse that with woke. Woke is to willfully overlook known evil. Woke. The awakening is to opening your eyes and understanding what's really going on. And all the lies are being cleared. They're all like, oh, wow, this is the real truth about this. This is a real, like, we're going to find all the dark things that they've done over history are now being exposed, and truth is coming out. And you know what? You're going to learn a lot of things that might make you sick. You're going to learn a lot of things that you're going to go, oh, now I understand why that happened the way it did.
Yeah. And you're going to have to dig, you can't just look on the surface.
Yeah.
And really question everything. I mean, even obviously, please question the things we're saying too, because we don't know these things for a fact as well. These are our opinions. These are things we've gathered, as absorbed as I'm listening to multiple different sources throughout the day, throughout the week. So yeah, please don't take what we say at face value either. So.
Awesome. Like, where do we jump off? Which story should we start with?
Well, I think one of the most disturbing things, I guess I wanted to start off on. Let's start with the most disturbing thing, right? No, it's and I should be more prepared. We talk about Chat GPT. You hear that all the time. You hear about AI all the time and you're hearing it in the mainstream. You're hearing it in the CNN, all the usual channels where the woke people are, which is concerning in and of itself. But one things you don't hear is the experts are saying about AI, and I am unprepared. I don't have sources to quote for you here, but some of these experts are saying we need to put a hold on AI. We need to pause it for 6 months at least, because it is learning at such an amazing rapid rate that by 2030, maybe it's 2050. I forget the date. The world will not survive. It will destroy the world if you leave AI as is, and it's being developed on different platforms in supercomputers and taught and learned through the internet and so forth. Some of these professionals are saying, these experts in this field are saying this needs to be shut down, completely shut down now, or put on hold for at least 6 months until legislation, we can figure out these problems and how to move forward with AI safely, right? Because if not, it will destroy the entire world. And I can't get into details, but you need to look into that, because that really is kind of a Fukushima moment for me.
Well, okay, go back to May 16th. The CEO of ChatGPT, the company behind it, whatever it is, he actually came out and said, guys, we're screwed. We've done too much too fast. There's so many things that can go wrong with this. And so I'm gonna quote a couple of different other articles that kind of summarize the major concerns. One, training and privacy issues. It can easily access your data, and it can easily extrapolate and copy and use intelligence to take and recreate your voice and steal your identity. That's actually two different things. So there's a security threat. There's also it has bias baked into the system. Like the way it's been programmed and it allowed to lie, it is allowed to lie. That's the thing people need to understand. It can take and create any scenario based on any data it finds, whether that data is true or false.
Well, the scary part about AI is, from what I understand, is called general AI. It's general. It's like you and me, rather than AI being fairly specific, but it's just general intelligence that is learning at a geometric rate. From what I understand, it had started, just a few months ago. Say you're going into ChatGPT, I think it's in its third or fourth iteration right now. And by the way, if you're using ChatGPT, you're feeding the beast. If you ask me, I won't touch it. But there are a lot of people that use it because it is amazing. So you're getting addicted. You're getting sucked into it, in my opinion. So with these different versions of AI, and maybe this is the general AI, that just a few months ago, it was at, say, 7 years old, in the way it communicated and the way it relayed information and so forth. Within a few weeks, month or so, it had gotten to 12, 13, 14 years old. Now it's somewhere around 20 years old within a few weeks later. Crazy? So it's becoming exponential in how it communicates and the rate it's learning. It's really quite scary.
All you have to do is watch Terminator and you'll understand the bad idea behind all this.
This is a quote from Elon Musk, and he's somebody that would be in a position to know. And he says, one of the biggest risks to the future of civilization is AI. And that goes right along with what you're talking about, Shane and Scott. So I actually, my wife and I just started watching a show. It's a little older show. It's called Person of Interest. And what's interesting is that the idea in that show is that this guy created a software that could track people all throughout the world, and he created it for the government. And the government can basically, it's kind of a Minority Report / AI / a bunch of different, China tracking system, social, that this guy invented, and he's using it supposedly for good. And of course, that's what they're going to always try to tell us, is that, the reason why we need all this stuff is for your safety and for your security and
for convenience.
And well, there's a scripture in I think it's in Thessalonians that says that as soon as they start preaching peace and safety, we're ripe for destruction, or something along those lines. And so that's, to me, this is like, okay, wait a minute. Some of these clues and cues, as they start saying things, are like, oh, okay, that's piquing my ears. I need to pay attention to that. And so when the number one guy, who's pretty much in fact, didn't Elon Musk's company come out with the first usable, actually tested now, brain robot? No, the brain chip. Like they actually, they tested it or something, and it works. I mean, that's scary.
Well, they've received FDA approval, is what's happened. They've received FDA approval.
I mean, I don't want to have a brain. I don't have a chip in my brain. Like, that's
beware when Elon Musk says that he's working, it's for our benefit, whatever he's doing. He's trying to be a good man. I don't believe it. When you're messing around with those types of things of wanting to alter our bodies to become more like gods in a different way, right? Not in the way that it's intended, but we're going to make you smarter, we're going to make you stronger, make you better through technology. Yeah, again, run the other way.
Yep.
Okay, so I have such a long list here. We're not going to have time to get through it. We're already 15 minutes in.
No,
So
jump to the next
the
one.
other thing that's hot in the news that I think everybody's heard about is this alien thing. You heard the 911 call. These guys, hey, this thing landed in our backyard, and these guys are 10 feet tall, and their eyes are huge, and their mouth is huge, and I'm not even joking with you guys. You've heard that, haven't you guys?
Is that the one where they're hiding in the tractor?
No. This is just a ship lands in someone's backyard. I think was it in Vegas? Yeah, it was in Las Vegas.
I think that's the one where they had, like, I saw one that was about they said, I thought it was Las Vegas, but they went in their backyard and they had a tractor, and they said that the aliens were hiding in the tractor. And so it was, I don't know if I'm getting the details right here, but they had a picture of some dude, like, I don't know. It didn't really look right to me, but it's still crazy that this is so much in the news.
And the media is pushing it, and they push it out. They only push out the things they want to, right? It's
either a distraction. Well, it's not either a distraction or something else. It's always a distraction, or for some other purpose, like to keep us
programming.
Yeah, the operation or programming. Like, have you guys heard of Operation Bluebeam?
Yeah.
So if you guys, if this is the first time you hear about this, like Operation Bluebeam, it's a conspiracy theory that the government's creating these laser enhanced, like projection enhanced videos that they can actually project things to look like it's happening. And one of the things they're going to fake or falsify is an alien invasion using these beams.
Well, I think it's even part of the conspiracy theory is that that's what the Phoenix Lights were decades ago.
Yep.
Is we're part of the Project Bluebeam.
And all the things that the government's now releasing about aliens and alien technology that they've captured and aliens videos and saying, hey, yeah, they're real. It seems so interesting how that just completely swept social media and all news channels and outlets for a season, right? And now it's continually being played out.
These whistleblowers are coming out, and I'm not buying
more
it
every week, more every
month.
month.
Well, there's that I don't know what 3-letter agency he was with, but he was a top-level intelligence officer of some kind, and he talked about how they have hundreds of. He was on a podcast talking about how there was hundreds of these ships that we have been able to reverse engineer and create and develop. And I mean, he said hundreds, I think, but the reality was I think he was alluding to more than we could really contact and talk about. And so it was just interesting that this all of a sudden, from all of the people who have been following UFOs for years and the aliens and the grays and everything are like, dude, finally I'm getting some vindication, right? But for years they were just battered and just beaten up like as wackadoos, and now we're like, it's all mainstream almost. It's like, wait a minute.
Well,
like,
it's we were warmed up to it by the XFiles, right? And those types of TV shows, right? Because it's so far out there and it's on the XFiles, so it's not true, right? But we've talked about this. That's how they announce their plans. That's how they get our permission and so forth, by us doing nothing when we're told what the agenda is, right? So if you look back, and I wouldn't say I'm an X-Files expert, but I own all the movies, I own all the DVDs, I've seen them multiple times. My daughter she knows all the names of all the, anyway. So we're somewhat of X-File, Exophiles, whatever you want to call it. And that is very much tying into the things that we're seeing nowadays. It turns out that what Mulder had followed his entire life was a lie. In the end, it was a lie, but it was a distraction. It was to push their agenda. So I think that's exactly what we're seeing in these in the news, and all these things that are being pushed out to us intentionally. They're distractions. They're to further their agenda. They're to mislead and misinform
too.
Yeah. So it's a very interesting time, to say the least.
Yeah, it's weird. It's crazy, and it's like. And then, then let's add on and talk about another topic. Canadian forest fires. And if you look at the East Coast of the United States, like New York is orange, smoke everywhere, air quality is horrible. But if you look at like the satellite imagery of those fires, they were all started simultaneously.
pretty much. Yeah.
What are the chances of that happening?
Right.
I think it's a very, very infinitesimal
Yeah. 0 to none.
possibility.
I think
Yeah.
0 to none and none just left home, you know.
Right? 0 to none and none's on vacation. So there's the chances are not that nothing can back
Statistically
up
zero,
how
probably.
they could have possibly happened.
Yeah,
Other than-
coincidence is more rare than what we care to admit to, I think.
Well, what I was listening to somebody, they were talking about how that when those fires went up, they were able to spray, and the cloud cover created kind of a barrier,
It's
and they were able to go through that and just spray a bunch of stuff throughout all of those areas that were covered, because people couldn't see what was going on because it was so
Mhm.
dark and yellow and just really
Hmm.
overcast, whatever. So they used that as cover to spray more stuff and to even spray harder stuff than they had been spraying before, because they were able to get away with it, because it actually trapped it in the way they designed it was able to trap the whatever they were spraying. And that's what I didn't do a lot of deep dive into that explanation, but I heard that somebody said that, and it's not, unfortunately, it's not out of the realm of possibility for me to
Yeah.
believe that that's something they would do. So I'm like, yep, probably true. If you know,
well,
So do you remember the smoke curtains that they dropped in World War II?
Mhm.
If you guys haven't, like listeners, if you guys haven't heard of these, go Google it. Go to YouTube. There are videos of warships in the 1920s being surrounded by these cloud curtains that they could fly around and drop, and you couldn't see out of them, so you had no idea what's going on the other side of it. Like, how easy is it to do the same thing now? The technology is
easier.
still there.
Mhm. If
Who
not
knows
better.
what's going on behind all the orange smoke? Who knows what's going on over there? And it makes things, radar doesn't work. Like, there's so many things that it can knock out in the process. And to think that they don't use it anymore, or that it's in a useless technology, is kind of absurd.
Mm-hmm.
And there's
They've
a lot of people
improved
that just
upon it, if
justify it and
anything.
say, "Oh no, it's just nature." I've never seen nature spontaneously combust in multiple locations all over
Yeah.
Quebec. And
And I guess part of that theory is that, I mean, they've been so dry up there for so long. They had a very warm, dry winter. Whereas here in Utah we had a cold, wet winter.
yeah,
So they got the opposite up there. So there's some perfect cover for that as well. That this is just natural because it was a long, hot, dry winter. The seasons are not staying within their bounds, right? They are kind of all over the place. They're not doing what they're supposed to be, or normally.
Mhm.
Again, this is the new normal, right?
the new normal. Times and seasons being off, weather being off, fires, wars, rumors of wars.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, all that sounds familiar.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely. And again, I guess going into rumors of wars, that's something we hear. It's spread all through the media, from, of course, Ukraine and Russia. Some say that Russia is winning. Some say Ukraine is winning. Who knows what the truth is, right?
Mhm.
I hear that Ukraine is just getting wiped out by Russia, and then you hear Russia's getting the soldiers are getting wiped out by Ukraine. Who knows the truth, and does it really matter to us? No, I don't think it does. Other than to say, watch and be ready, right?
Well, I
Mhm.
just feel bad for all the innocent people caught in the middle of this and any other conflict. Like, there are so many government organizations and non-government NGOs who they're just trying to do what they want to do and push agendas, and so they don't really care who gets hurt. And
Mhm.
so those are the things that you've got to watch out for. And that's why we're doing this episode, is like help you better understand what's going on around you and help you find other solutions to stay in tune. Like, one of the best things you can do, honestly, is turn off the TV. Turn off the news on the TV and go find the things that make most sense for you to study and to read. Like, you take the initiative to search for the news that you want, because otherwise you're just going to get the programming they want you to hear.
Mhm.
And I love going to international news sites. Like, I will pull news from the UK and from India and all over, Australia, before I
Wyon
look
and
at ours, because
RT.
they're going to have a different skewed perspective on it than ours. Ours is trying to force a specific agenda, so is theirs to them.
Mhm.
But if you can triangulate the news through 3 different countries, you might have a better understanding of what's really going on.
Yeah, and I think, once I am able to see the different perspectives, my brain starts to work on it and see, okay, what's the most likely truth in all of these different takes? What's the most reasonable truth in all of this? And then I use that to prepare accordingly. And sometimes, well, there's nothing I can do about that other than just maybe get a little more corn, get a little more wheat, and those types of things, and just anticipate any potential issues like China and Taiwan, right?
Well, one of the things that we can definitely do as individuals is be aware of what's going on, and then do everything that we can locally to help affect a change for the positive. Now, we know some of these prophecies have been written in scriptures for thousands of years. We're not going to change them. We're not going to change. God didn't put it in the heart of the prophets to write those things down only to have them changed at the last minute. So some of that stuff's going to happen regardless of everything that's written in scripture is going to happen regardless of what we do. It's up to us to determine what side of it we're going to be on. What side of that, what side of history are you going to choose to be on when you get to heaven or in God, and you meet God? Is he going to say, hey, look, you fought for me and with me, and I love you, and come on in? Or are we going to be the guy who was like, wait a minute? So that's, I think, being aware. One of the biggest things that the tyrants do when they want to change or take control is they dumb down the populace, and they keep them distracted with bread and circuses, as they say. And so if we can stay awake and stay aware and be listening in, keep our head on a swivel, so to speak, we're going to be able to know what to do and when to do it, so that we can slow down their role. We need to be on the side of liberty and freedom and justice, and we need to be slow in their role, and not and trying to save as many people as we can while we're going along through it ourselves. But you mentioned China and Taiwan, and China is one of the big things locally, especially for us here in Utah, is that there's been stuff in the news about how China is buying up. Well, not only are they buying up land all over the United States, but there was an article recently that said something about how one of China's biggest partnerships in the United States is the state of Utah. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, what are we doing? Like, we should be the ones that are championing liberty and freedoms, not making deals with one of the worst regimes that's out there.
Yeah,
Well,
that's another thing that people need to spend some time looking into. Is defendingutah.org? Is that what it is?
Yeah, defendingutah.org did that expose on it, and they talked about how our governor and our senators are trying to bring money in from China.
It's all about the money.
Also talking about how the local schools are writing letters to the Communist Party, and they're getting letters back from what do they call him, Grandpa? And the dictator, the evil dictator who's killing people, they're calling him Grandpa. Yeah. And they're trying to create a warm welcome blanket to these kids to be like, oh yeah, we're friends with China. China's great. Well, then they've also indoctrinated us that we need to buy all the cheap products we can from China. And so to me, there's two problems. One, we're dependent on China for a lot of our consumables, like our electronics, like all the cheap stuff. A lot of the really high-end stuff still made in America. But here's the interesting thing. We're buying more and more meats overseas. Like, look at the company Butcher Box. That's not from anywhere in this side of the hemisphere. It's coming from Australia, right?
Wow.
Like, and everything else is getting to the point where it's so controlled by big corporations that we are being just crushed. And do they care about us? Well, I'm going to take my money from Target because Target's doing something I don't like, and I'm going to go spend it all at Walmart. Does Walmart care about you either? No.
Branch of the U.S. government.
Speaking of Walmart, I heard recently that several of their executives sold, I think, somewhere in the tune of $400 million worth of stock. When the execs are selling off their stock, you know that something's around the corner economically. I feel like what we're getting right now in the marketplace is a nice little bounce, but it's in preparation for potential bigger fall. So if you guys have stocks or anything in the market and it's something that you feel good about after talking with your own personal financial advisor, you might want to take some profits, cream a little bit, take a little of that profits off the top right now and get some money in cash for
reallocate those
like
funds
food
to
storage.
something.
Yeah, the word that keeps coming to mind is bull trap. It was just recently announced by the the people who matter the most in the financial industry, oh, we're in a new bull market, right? We're up 20% from our recent lows. So technically, yes, that's a bull market. But there are more bull markets, not in bear markets. There are more bull runs in bear markets, right, Paris? Am I saying that right? So that there is more volatility upwards in a downward flowing market, right? In a downturn. So that's what I think we're seeing. We're seeing a bull trap, right? Pulling people, putting their money in, and then it collapses out from underneath, and they're trapped and they lose.
Because everybody feels like it's going back up, so they're going to pump a bunch of money.
Exactly. Oh, it's going up. We need to fear of missing out. Fear of missing out. And now, Paris, you have a little personal experience here of where you kind of got caught in a little bit of a
I
trap.
had in the excitement of everything that's going on in the world with cryptocurrencies, I was like, you know what the heck, I'll throw a couple bucks in, and it was about 5. I tried to keep it under 5% of my portfolio in crypto because it's speculative, and if I lose 5% of my net worth, no big deal. But
still,
it grew. I actually doubled my money for a time, and then it halved. It fell back down to half of what it was. Like, dang it, So I got an email over the weekend. I think it was Friday, and it's from Binance, which is the company where I had most of my crypto, actually.
A crypto exchange.
Yes, right? And a crypto exchange. And they said, as of June 13th, so this was Friday the 10th, I think, or maybe it was the 11th. Anyways, as of June 13th, which is yesterday, as of the recording of this video, but or this podcast, they said we're not going to be able to let you withdraw your money in US dollars. And I'm like, so we're going to a crypto only exchange. What that means is that if you want to get your money, you'd have to transfer your crypto to another brokerage and then cash out of it there. And I'm like, you know what? This is my cue to just cash out of this whole thing. I took a loss on the crypto. Thankfully, I'll be able to write that off as a capital loss at the end of the year. So do a little tax loss harvesting, as they call it. So if you want to know more about that, hit me up on my financial channel. But the idea is
to follow financial self-reliance.
Yep. The idea is, though, that I got out because I wanted to take that cash. In fact, I was looking at some solar battery banks and some solar panels, and I'm like, about the money I pulled out was about the one I want to buy. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe this is my cue to cash this out and buy my solar power bank and my solar panels for once.
Heck yeah.
Finally.
Yeah, I think what you said there, Paris, is something that kind of rings in my head is in the financial industry, in the markets, bulls make money, bears make money, but pigs get slaughtered, right? So when you make a profit, don't hesitate. Oh, I made a good profit. I made 10, 20, whatever your goal is, a percentage, get out, take some profits, just like you said, Paris. Rather than say, I'm going to sit in here until it crashes, and then you lose everything.
Yeah, everybody's all excited about crypto, and don't get me wrong. If you can time it, if you feel like you're confident enough to time it, you'll make some money. However, if we believe that crap's going to hit the fan, that we're going to have another thing that we're going to talk about, this kind of goes right into it, is that didn't Klaus Schwab say that the next big threat is going to be some kind of cyber attack?
Yep.
I don't know if you've seen this, guys, but I've seen several things about the internet. If the internet goes down, like even they're talking about solar, CME, solar coronal mass ejections. Yeah. And they're talking about how this could put our internet down and for months. So what would you do? Like there's all these things in the news lately, or at least in certain circles of the news, of what if we lose the internet for several months? Well, dude, if you lose the internet, you've probably lost the electricity, or at least connectivity. Yeah. You've lost all your crypto. Like I don't care unless it's on a wallet, but then if the crap hits the fan and the grid goes down, what's the point of your having it on a wallet?
Well, also all of your entire 401ks and IRAs are gone too.
Yeah.
Like you've got to remember, like your banking, everything, if the Internet of Things or any portion of the internet's gone, you don't have access to those things for that period of time. They can't help you. If you get access to them again later, okay, fantastic. But you've got to understand, you have to have an insurance policy for the in-betweens.
Yep.
Even if that in-between's only a couple of days, right? Or what if it's a couple of years? The better you can plan and have a contingency and have your own. And when I say insurance plan, I'm not saying go out and buy an insurance policy, because that's also not going to work. Your insurance policy is your home store. Do I have extra soap? Do I have extra food? Do I have a way to catch water? Do I have extra water? Do I have first aid kits?
Freedom
Those are
seeds.
basic starter points. What?
Freedom seeds.
Freedom seeds. Absolutely. Do I have freedom seeds and a distribution method of planting those where they
I'm
need
all
to be
for-
planted?
I'm all for investing in stocks and investing in things like that. But after, in my opinion, after you've got your food storage, your water storage, your gear, you've got a place that if you lost all of that, you would still know how to survive and be self-reliant. And that, to me, if you've got everything set up, you've got your foundation strong, and then you have extra money you want to throw in the market and see if you get a little bit of money between now and the time that everything craps, that's fine. Do it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But just be aware of that. Like that's kind of the idea, is that again, awareness brings change, and awareness is what we're talking about. It's just making you aware of what's going on in the world. Because if we have a power outage, if they're talking about it, if Klaus Schwab is saying the next big thing is going to be a cyber attack, and if they're talking now about losing the internet or the internet going down for several months, what did we know? What do we learn from history? Like, they literally had an event, like some kind of a pandemic event practice run 10 years before COVID, or whatever it was before COVID, a couple years before COVID.
A couple months
now they're
before
doing
COVID.
Yeah,
now they're having another one where it's supposed to be in 2025. They're going to do this simulation. It's all, to me, it's just predictive programming and just preparing us for what they're going to eventually do. They may change a few words here or there, but it's going to be watch what's happening in their preparations and their planning phases, because that's probably what ends up going to be happening to us as a people.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of also on that same topic of, we're talking about China and getting cheap stuff, is, have you heard about the ports in Oregon and California? They are, again, behind, backlogged, ships building up, unable to, I think they're working at like 60% capacity, the ones in California. Wow. I'm trying to think. Oregon, they're having, there's labor disputes, essentially. These guys, they make a lot of money. The people working at these facilities, because they're in the union, and that's what they've negotiated. And now they want more. And I'm not sure if that's entirely contributing to the low percentage of their capacity, but being able to get these ships in and unloaded and out through the U.S. But those are building up, and just kind of like it did through COVID, right?
What's interesting is, like, think of it this way: you're using an international supply chain for almost everything in America nowadays. What does America actually produce, and what serves your interest? As you know, you could be listening to this anywhere in the world, but like, what serves our use is what we can grow and produce and develop locally.
Seems like all we can produce locally is services, right? Software,
service, growing gardens, going to farmers markets, using the app Farmish. Like, there's so many things you can do to like shorten your supply chain to local. And yet, what do? We don't. Like, I'll wait.
It's too convenient to go the other way. I mean, it's inconvenient, right? I've been doing this for years. It's just easy for me just to order my groceries from Walmart and have them delivered to my house. I mean, that's super convenient.
Order my fake food, my processed garbage, the standard American diet, aka SAD.
Yes,
we can do better. So if you're listening, do better. Like, find local sources. Like, do better. Don't, at least
American made.
Yeah, and don't just like, oh, hey, I need to get prepped, and go buy something from overseas off of Amazon and be like, yeah, I think I'm just going to do something here. Like, yeah, there's some products that we recommend that are on there, but it's like, buy it now with the money you have now, so you don't have to worry about it later. In Paris, we had this conversation just a couple of days ago. You were talking to a friend of yours, and he's like, I'm eating food storage food that, quote unquote, is expired, right? Your canned foods don't expire right away. They last longer than the expiration date. There's not an FDA regulation that tells it when they have to have those dates. Guess what those dates are for? To encourage you to throw it out and buy more.
Yep.
So don't throw those out. Keep those.
I've eaten canned food that's a year past the expiration date, and it was fine.
Oh yeah,
easy. I had canned food 16 years past its expiration date.
Well, you are,
and
brave.
I don't know if my grandpa was trying to test to see if I would die first. But this is the grandpa everybody hates. Like, he was a bad man, but he's like, here, try this, and I ate it, and I was fine, and so he ate something. I'm like, really? You're not the king. Come on, dude.
Yeah.
He tells me at 16 years old. Later. I'm like, oh my gosh. But
Thanks
like,
a lot, dude.
I'm eating food that's 2-3 years old all the time. You're
Mhm.
rotating your supplies. And I'm like, oh yeah, this can slip through. Cool. Ravioli tastes fantastic. The thing
Terrible
is,
for you, but
as long as it's not bulging and it passes your sniff test,
Mhm.
cook it and you should be fine.
Yep.
I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to give you health advice, but just don't go crazy about it. Put your money in the stuff that costs less next year by buying it today.
Yep. That's what they said, is they were like, look, I can go buy canned food today at one price, but in a year it's going to be higher. So why not buy it today? And then the canned food they had from last year is cheaper than the food this year. So
Mhm.
that's a great store against inflation, is to
Savings
have food
account.
for
It's
it.
a different kind of savings account. I think too many people think, oh, I need to have money in the bank, because that's what we're taught, right? And I know we're up against our hour. We need to finish up here, but think about other ways of putting your dollars, your currency, into things that are value, that we're going to go up in value, and food is definitely one of them. Freedom seeds are another one. There's a lot of things other than just cash in the bank that is actually better, far better, and better than the stock market too.
Amen.
Absolutely. So let's end with that, guys. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for being a part of the show, and for share the show with everybody that you can think of. Again, if you have any information about any of the stuff that we talked about that we didn't get a chance to kind of dive into, hit us up in our Facebook group and start having a conversation there. And if there's other things that you thought that you know is going on in the world, whether it's stuff happening with China or even locally stuff, we get a lot of stuff happening politically in our own, right here locally in our country, with our president and the elections coming up, and just a bunch of stuff happening. So just be aware, be awake, and be ready for what's coming, because that's what preparedness is, to be prepared and be ready for what's coming. So once again, go to patriotswitch.com/prepper talk if you want to know more about switching to a parallel economy, getting some products and services that are American made, American manufactured, and an American distribution as well. In fact, one of the cool things about the manufacturer that we're promoting here, they have a relationship with a beef manufacturer that's completely mRNA free and just grass fed. They have ownership and control the whole process from start to finish. So it's going to be good quality stuff. So with that in mind, thank you so much. You've been listening to Prepper Talk Radio for the ready minded, where we focus on God, family, and country. Until the next one, have a fantastic day, guys.
See you next week.